morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world we find you today. Welcome to the third in our series of webinars covering the effects of COVID-19 on the packaging and processing industries. My name is Marek Szandrowski, and I'm the Brand Director at Informa Markets with responsibility for the ProPak portfolio of processing and packaging trade shows across China, India, Southeast Asia, and Egypt. We're very excited to be organising this series of webinars in collaboration with the World Packaging Organisation and the support of the Australian Institute of Packaging. Many thanks to Pierre Pienaar and Nerida Kelton for their enthusiasm and shaping the agenda for the series. Today's topic is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on sustainable packaging and global recycling targets. During the ongoing pandemic, we've seen a return to a more positive approach to plastic packaging amongst consumers and an increase in single-use plastics. Today's discussion will look at whether this is a temporary phenomenon and how waste management strategies and global recycling targets will be affected in the longer term. Once again, I'm delighted to be able to welcome a host of international experts from right across the globe to share this discussion. Pierre Pienaar, WPO President based in Australia, will be moderating the session. And also from down under, we have Nerida Kelton from the Australian Institute of Packaging. We have Chakravarthi AVPS, WPO Global Ambassador from India. The Asian Packaging Federation President, Aslihan Arikan, based in Turkey. And Henky Wibawa from the Indonesian Packaging Federation in Indonesia. I would like very much also to welcome the more than 600 participants we have from all over the world who are attending this webinar today. You're very welcome, and we want you to get involved in this session, and we want it to be as interactive as possible. So please submit your questions stating your name and your country where you're attending from via the Q&A tab at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Just before I hand over to Pierre to get things moving, I wanted to give you a quick update on the ProPak shows. Unfortunately, we've had to recently postpone our ProPak Vietnam events due to government restrictions following a COVID outbreak in Da Nang recently. The next edition of ProPak Vietnam will now take place in November 2021. However, we still remain of successfully running our flagship ProPak Asia event in Bangkok in October and ProPak China in Shanghai in November. Until that point in time, we will be rolling out digital products to maintain the connectivity between the ProPak supplier and buyer communities. So please check the ProPak websites for further details. Without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Pierre, President of WPO, and our guest panelists. Pierre.
Well, a very good afternoon or good evening or good morning to all of you around the world. I'm told we have 47 countries involved today, and it is my pleasure to be your host for the next hour. Well, I'm going to get straight into it by giving a short introduction of each of our speakers. And then we'll open it to question time. As Marek mentioned, we have a great team from around the world. We've got Australia, we've got India, we've got Turkey and Indonesia. So we actually have quite a nice wide spectrum of people across the world representing different disciplines and coming with different views on this whole sustainable packaging and how the COVID-19 is affected the packaging industry, but also global recycling targets. So let's get the show on the road. I'd like to introduce to you Nerida Kelton. So Nerida is the Executive Director of the Australian Institute of Packaging, and she comes with a wealth of experience. She's been in the industry for 22 years. She is very involved in the Save Food Packaging Consortium project here in Australia, and that is music to my ears. The more food that we can save, the less people will have to go hungry. Now, also the other aspect that I really admire Nerida for, and that is, besides minimizing food waste, but it's education. She is passionate about education and teaching and educating and making sure that more people know more about packaging to make it better for more people. Simple as that. Nerida, you have a slideshow that you'd like to present. Can I call on you to present that your slides?
Thank you, Pierre. So can everybody see the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much to Informa Markets and to the World Packaging Organization for inviting. Sorry, am I off mute?
Yeah, you're off mute. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I'll start again. Thank you very much to Informa Markets and to the World Packaging Organization for inviting the Australian Institute of Packaging to be a part of this series. For those who don't know who the AIP are, we are basically the peak professional body for packaging education in Australasia. So anything that you need to be educated in, we're here to help you. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay. So the circular economy, it's a new way to design and to make and use things within planetary boundaries. We're shifting to a system where we design out waste and pollution, we keep products and materials in use, and we regenerate natural systems. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you're following a pledge, a target, a goal, a commitment, or a strategy to all achieve the same things. Our targets might be slightly dissimilar, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve is to make sure that all of our packaging is reusable, recyclable, or compostable. We want to make sure that we are having a significant increase in the amount of plastic packaging that's recycled or composted around the world. We must increase the amount of average recycled content that we've got in packaging, and we absolutely must get rid of all problematic and unnecessary single-use plastic packaging in the world. And then COVID hit. And what I'd like to do is share a few observations that I've been watching over the last 5 months and a few challenges that I think are presenting themselves for all of the targets that we're trying to achieve. The first one is global supply chains. It's access to products, it's access to food and beverage, and it's also access to materials. Obviously in Australia, we had a little bit of a problem with toilet paper as well, but that's all back on track. So one of the things that I've observed is that I myself have changed my eating habits. We went into lockdown, which meant we needed to look at our perishable and non-perishable items in our house. And what I did was bring in more packaging than I normally have into my home, which for me is very disappointing. As you can see from my pantry on the right, I've introduced a lot more PET, a lot more cans, and a lot more flexibles. What that means is I'm not only bringing in additional packaging and packaging materials into my home, but we all are, and we also need to be able to recycle it from our homes during lockdown. An interesting point too is that we have all changed our eating habits during the lockdown and during COVID. What we're seeing now is more people are eating at home. We're eating far more snacks than we used to, and we're also eating a lot more junk food. So think about that in perspective of packaging and packaging materials. That changes the demand, it changes access to the materials, and it actually means we're all trying to use the same materials around the world, which means there's some scarcities. Another observation is takeaway food, and this is a little bit concerning for me. In Australia, I have seen that a lot of restaurants and cafes are simply trying to survive, and they're trying to do this by offering a takeaway menu. The problem with this is that they're actually using the unnecessary and problematic packaging for their takeaway items. Another observation is the keeper cups were banned, and I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but here in Australia, we're only just starting to bring them back in. And what that means is we're introducing back into the environment unnecessary coffee cups. As you can see on this image, we have massive issues with single-use plastic. On the left are what we call soft plastics, and soft plastics traditionally are returned to stores in Australia and New Zealand. How can I do that when I'm actually getting all of my groceries delivered to my home? The delivery trucks don't have any ability to take that back. I don't personally want to go back to the store unnecessarily, so I'm starting to amass unnecessary single-use plastics that should be returned to store. In an ideal world, delivery trucks should be accepting the return to store items and taking it back for the consumers. On the right-hand side, you'll see single-use plastic bags. Our deliveries are double and triple bagged sometimes, and we are now amassing all of these unnecessary single-use plastics that we didn't have in our home before COVID. Some of the other changes that we've started to see in our country is that we have increases in rubbish and recyclables via the curbside bins. You'll see at the top it says 10%. That actually changed to 20% this month. There's far more littering, and there's also a lot of illegal dumping of waste. Unfortunately and sadly, we're all seeing it around the world. There's a lot more littering of PPE, and luckily companies like TerraCycle are starting to take initiatives to ensure that they are recycled, but this is a concern, not only here, but globally. We also have unnecessary PPE being littered in masks. And if everyone wore a disposable mask every day for a year, we'd have 3 trillion masks to dispose of. I think there are challenges ahead. I would like to believe they're short-term while we're in this pandemic. I would like to believe that a lot of the multinationals have substantial departments to be able to achieve the targets and continue the momentum. I do have concerns that the COVID and the pandemic present challenges to small businesses. So thank you.
Well, Nerida, thank you. You know, you were talking there about eating more during the COVID-19 crisis, and you know, they talk about flattening the curve. Well, all that I've done is I've fattened the curve. So, which brings me to the next topic, as you mentioned about the single-use plastic bags, and our next speaker is going to be talking about the revival of the single-use plastic bags. Now, I'd like to introduce you all to Chakravarthi AVPS from India. Now, Chakravarthi I've known for many years, and I know that he is absolutely passionate about packaging. We see a lot of him across the world. He is an incredibly good ambassador for the World Packaging Organization, and certainly one of my right-hand men. Thank you, Chakravarthi, for that. He is also the CEO of his own company, Decomposition, in Hyderabad. And I'm pleased to say that very recently, Chakravarthi was named the most influential leader in the packaging industry in India. Well done on that one as well. Chakravarthi, can you take us through your slides, please?
Namaste to all around the world. Thank you, Informa, and thank you, Pia. Before we really go into the discussions, I think I quickly run you through a small slide presentation. Of course, you have to pardon us because there will be a lot of repetitions because the subject demands like that. Well, COVID really threw a lot of challenges on us. This pandemic has altered the complete waste management strategies, really, especially the revival of single-use plastics. What revival? The single use of plastics was there, is there, and will be there, but in what way? Well, the problem is the plastic will definitely outlive us, all of us. If you see the estimated decomposition rates, the paper, couple of weeks to 4 weeks, and then the plastic bag, 10 to 20 years. And the can, glass, PET, and styrofoam, never ever. Okay, this is all in landfills, but when it is into the sea, yeah, the situation is not far different from that. The decomposition rates, you can see. Few months to few years or few few hundreds of years. But well, why do we use plastic at all? Like all of you, I also wish to drive away plastic completely from our day-to-day life. But you have to be very frank to yourself. Is it really possible to live without plastics? Plastic is safe, hygienic, it's lightweight, durable, secure, versatile, and of course recyclable as well. The question is, can you really ban single-use plastics? Let me put all single-use plastics. Think again. Can you really stop using them? Of course, let's ask the same question to a physician, especially under the COVID-19 backdrop. Because of this, the plastic, I can say few hundreds of thousands of lives have not been positive from negative. Positive is a negative word, unfortunately, in the COVID-19 circumstances, thanks to the plastics. Single-use plastic, our biggest ally, as we are talking about, be it the face mask, face shields, PPE kits, or gloves, which really have saved our lives during the past few days. Well, you need to be frank. How many of them you can throw it away? Can we realistically not use them at all in the future? Ban single-use plastic or ban all single-use plastic? Think again. Does anyone feel like we could do better? Environment consciousness. I'm willing to pay. This is all the survey conducted by global chemicals company Chemira. 46% are willing to pay more for renewable packaging. 40% always wanted to have recycling cartons, and 58% trying to reduce. So 38% I would feel about increasing plastic. So the trend is very clear. So try using alternatives wherever it is possible. Imagine all these single-use plastics. You have alternatives in the bottom. The current single-use and then the alternatives, be it reusable containers or be it alternative sustainable source material. Well, which we talked about just now. Well, like my friend Nerida told, the initiatives on the global corporations all over the world, be it Kellogg's, Coca-Cola here, Unilever, McDonald's, and Hershey's, you can see the recyclable, using 100% recyclable material is the targets of almost all, not only corporate companies, even middle-aged companies as well. The way forward, the reduce, reuse, recycle, we firmly believe into that. It means that consider what resources you're using, and reuse means what item again and already being used. Recycle, can you convert all that into again a useful material? Reducing plastic content in the existing packaging, this is all known to you. I don't want to go into the detail. Well, some of the single-use plastics, I love it. It may not be practically possible all over, but I myself am using in my garden. You can see there's a pictures from my garden. Beautifully grown brinjals using that plastic pails, otherwise have been thrown into the waste streams and landfills. I've been using, and they will last for 4 or 5 years. I was told the plants will remain cool in those. Well, some of the temporary shades made use of the PET bottles. Recycle all single-use plastic if it's possible. Yeah. Resource circulation system, environmental objectives at each stage. Of course, this is most of the advanced countries, the waste streams, the collection of the waste, the total supply chain of the waste stream is streamlined, which is the need of the hour everywhere, all over the world. Plastic to fuel, don't need to say further. Well, that's all today. This about single-use plastic revival. I don't say revival; it is there, but you need to judiciously use all the single-use plastic wherever it is necessary only, but not. Let me say the World Packaging Organization is material neutral. We are forever all the material to exist. Responsible packaging is our mission, definitely. Some of the views might be my own, but end of the day, the group as an organization is for responsible packaging. Thank you. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you, Chakravarthi. You know, you gave a very good global picture there, which I'm sure all our listeners around the world would appreciate. And I emphasize the word pictures. I'm a pictures man, and you gave lots of pictures. I recall and I have memory on pictures, so thank you very much. And Chakravarthi, I'm very impressed with that garden of yours on the top terrace. I think it's fantastic. Chakravarthi has started gardening since the pandemic, and it is quite a sight to see what all is growing. May I add to the listeners a very warm welcome to those who've just joined us in the last few minutes. So welcome from India to Indonesia, from Australia to Austria, and from the USA to the United Kingdom, and of course from South Africa to Sweden. A very warm welcome to all of you. We now move to the next speaker, which is Aslihan Arikan. Now, Aslihan is from Turkey. She is one of our vice presidents and is responsible for global education in packaging. Aslihan comes with a lot of experience as well. She has a master's degree in chemical engineering, but at the moment although she spends a lot of time with the European Union affairs, being based in Turkey, she's also the General Secretary of the Turkish Packaging Manufacturers Association. And of course, she's also the President of the Asian Packaging Federation. Welcome, a very warm welcome to you, Aslihan. If you could give your slide presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, the organizer, ProPak Asia team, and all the participants. It's my great pleasure, and I am honored to join you on this webinar. My topic is the revival of plastics packaging to secure food. We all know that packaging has many requirements, but the requirement protection against external environment has not been so necessary in the modern lifestyle. During this pandemic, protection is what I need, what we need. Let me remind you the relation between food safety and packaging. The purpose of focusing on food and packaging interaction is basically to secure packaging conformity and guarantee the consumer health. Under normal conditions, packaging or food contact material should not threaten the human health, should not change the composition of food, and should not change organoleptic characteristics of food. And drivers are always first consumer perception and second legislation. I want to focus on a little bit consumer perception. Let us remember the headlines from 1 year ago. There was a global attempt to ban plastics around the world. But today, plastics packaging and single-use plastics for food, beverage, health, cleaning, and medical products have never been as important as before. Because consumers, we want to survive. The biologist Charles Darwin states, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change." So dinosaurs should not adapt themselves to the climate change millions of years ago, but we did. We have survived and we will. The purpose of packaging is primarily to protect food products from outside influences and preserve the content. Secondly, to improve the product's presentation. Today, the function protection is more important than other functions. Packaging is not only dress of the product, packaging is also a shield for food. Because products without packaging are exposed to risks. And we better understood those risks during this pandemic. Unfortunately, The image of the packaging after use is preventing the perception of its most important function. This function is to protect the product. If the products are protected by suitable packaging to prevent decomposition, actually product waste will be less and also less packaging will be used. In the modern civilization, packaging should be obliged to achieve its mission sustainably to protect environment and natural resources. The fact, plastics have shaped the modern civilization. In Europe region, Europe continent, the plastics industry gives direct employment more than 1.6 million people. And packaged goods have beneficially transformed the lives of people in many areas. If you look at the plastic demand by sector, we see packaging is the biggest end-use market, having almost 40% of share. There will be always a future market growth for plastics in packaging, like retort packaging, barrier packaging, and we understood how important and necessary barrier packaging like plastics, metal, and glass to protect ourselves from the viruses. And monomaterials, and we need more recycled content in the materials. So I want to focus a little bit more on monomaterials because we will talk about this in the future. And let me show you an example. For example, a future market growth for the new retort pouch structure, there will be no aluminum and all materials will contain plastics, hopefully. So the new retort pouch structure will not have any aluminum in the future. Let us focus on flexible composite structures. We need to redesign multi-materials like flexible packaging to monomaterials with existing recycling streams. For example, there will be monopolyethylene, monopolypropylene having 80 to 90% of one of those polymers. We need to think the future of the packaging, and we all familiar during the pandemic, we stayed at home and we did online shopping through small screens. So we can conclude that packaging and logistics will be the key industries in the future. And also, the most importantly, there is an increase in health consciousness. Consumer demands an increase in life expectancy. An increase in life expectancy can be achieved by using packaging. So there is no way back from plastics packaging. Let us redesign and use it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Aslihan. That was fantastic. Again, I like all those pictures. I certainly will take a lot out of that presentation. All right, now the final presentation from Henky Wibawa. Now, Henky is the Indonesian Packaging Federation Executive Director. But I think more important, Henky is a flexible expert. Anything that I need to know about flexibles, it's one phone call away. So Henky, I know that you're also very involved in market development, technology development, and then of course, you're very involved in recycling. And I know that you're an influential person on our Tuesday night sessions every week. I'll hand over to you, Henky.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Pierre, and good day to everyone here from Jakarta. It's a Vienna day. So I will continue the topic today, which very hot for us today is the regarding the contaminated PPE. The next. David, can you help me? Yes. So what you see today, you know, we have different social life today. Social distancing, we are not able to travel, and definitely affected also to the economic prosperity, continuity, and so on. And last but not least, we look at our environment, especially to the picture that on the upper right, that is, I think, famous. Everyone was have seen that picture. So what you see here, from one side, this is what very good. On the other side is very bad. So I always saying between evil and devil. So this is our life today. So my next slide. Because this is the way we used to do the linear economy. Yeah, whatever that we make today, and especially regarding the pandemic, of course, we need that all the PPE. We're talking about the mask before. So we make the mask, we take the resource, and we dispose. This is our habit, our behavior today, and that affected to our environment today. So next. And to the PPE. We're talking about single-use PPE, of course, because the virus that's so dangerous that we have to protect ourselves either in the social life or in the hospital, but then we have to use it just one time and we dispose it. And this is very dangerous disposal, actually. What are we going to do with that? Next. Again, this is from linear economy. We have to change to our circular economy. The next slide, please. To circular economy. What does that mean? So we have to think, we have to rethink. The PPE is our necessary, our goods. But what do we have to do with that? From the design, for example, based on the survey, that we need to reuse it again. So that is the most important. So this is the kind of circular economy that we have to rethink. Next. So talking about the circular economy concept, the whole keywords that we are talking before, PPE, disposable, reusable, face mask, the life cycle assessment, the respirator, the surgical mask, and how we manage that. What technology that we have to use in the future. Next. The waste hierarchy in Europe, for example, we know the way you do in order to reduce the waste is reduce, reuse, recycle, recovery, and the last is in a landfill, of course. But again, is that the way we do? No, we have to change. We have to rethink and we have to change. Next. So reduce, reuse, recycle, which is more important, and especially in regards into the PPE, according to the survey, reuse is the best. Reuse is the best in that particular problem that we see. And next. So this is the following question that we talking about. Should we collect it separately? So that we have to think. How about the waste stream collection? The waste stream, the whole waste stream, who collected? Because this is a very dangerous waste actually. And then economy assessment. That we have to do. Next. Of course, that's impacted to the industry itself. It's definitely impacted the economy, but we have again to remind that by reusing, by doing the circular economy, we have to save also our resources actually. In that case, definitely also giving the benefit to the whole economy in the future. Next. So there's a whole situation that we might do, the technology that we have to develop, we have to do the research and so on, that in order to really giving the best solution on that circular economy value chain. Next. So the value creation, the inner cycle, minimizing comparative material use, cycling longer, that means that you reuse and reuse again. The next. Cascading, fewer inputs and so on. The next. So the whole circular economy work started from the design, how you do the business model, and collaboration. One of the main words that we have to also think, and the reverse logistic we are talking about. I think that is my message today. In order that we have to giving the solution on the main issue that we see today, impact of this pandemic. Next.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you again, Henky. And again, I'd like to just say welcome to all those listeners that have dialed in the last few minutes. To all of you 637 listeners from 47 countries, from Istanbul to Indianapolis, from Manila to Mexico City, from Paris to Pau, from Barcelona to Brisbane, and Denpasar to Denver. And that's only mentioning a few of you around the world. So now I'd like all the presenters, if they can come up on the screen, as we open up the questions from the audience, as well as from myself. Excellent, there we go, great. Nice to have you all with us together, one big happy family. I want to start off with you, Nerida, because just for a general question, how has COVID-19 impacted your family life?
In terms of packaging, or in terms of
anything?
I mean, I think the biggest observation that I've had is the changes to not only the packaging that I'm bringing in, but the difficulty in being able to get it back out to be recycled. That's a huge thing that I'm seeing. And I'm also seeing too that we're torn, because we all want packaging that's to protect and preserve and contain the product, which is absolutely what Aslihan said. That's the whole fundamental purpose of packaging, is to protect it. And in the pandemic, I want my packaging to protect the products. But then I'm torn because as an industry person, I see all of the challenges that we're facing to meet the targets. And it's a really hard one. And I also am seeing the challenges that small to medium-sized businesses are facing just surviving. And if they're just surviving and they're just hanging on by a thread, how are they going to focus on things like sustainable packaging targets?
Well, that leads me to the next question, thank you, to Chakravarthi. And I know, having been in your beautiful city in Hyderabad, what has been the consumer's reaction in general to COVID-19 in your city?
Well, in general, because I'm a packaging man, there is some packaging blood in me. I keep interacting with the people, even during the COVID-19. I myself was a sufferer because there was a lockdown all over the world. Nevertheless, we were hardly closed for 4-5 days. But in the month of April, first week itself, we restarted our operations in April, and we are running continuously despite many challenges. But coming to your question straight away, when we interact with so many consumers in the fellow community and all, because I keep talking about packaging, even though it's a dry subject for all of them, but people cannot refrain appreciating the effort of packaging for better lives of the people. Imagine in the absence of the proper packaging, be it PPE kits or anything related, be it the food being reached. In fact, I myself have around 150 Amazon deliveries during the last 4 months. Of course, the littering and waste disposal is a different topic, but at the same time, at this testing period, the plastic, the packaging in particular, has really helped our lives to be better, to not to go out of the gear, both in the food processing, food and medical requirements, and health and hygiene in particular. Actually, imagine the absence of the plastic, the low molded containers or those flipped up caps. Without those, the millions of hand sanitizers and hand washes people are using all across the world, just to be on the negative, not to be COVID positive. So yeah, the contribution of the packaging is enormous.
Thank you. Aslihan, tell me, we know that sustainability is a major requirement, and we talk about it all over the world, and I'm sure you talk about it in Istanbul. Has it taken a back seat during COVID-19? Aslihan?
Okay. So can you explain a little bit?
I said that sustainability is a very important subject to all of us in the packaging industry, but outside packaging as well. But do you think it's taken a back seat in COVID-19?
Actually, I think the world is fighting with an unknown enemy this year. So as I mentioned in my presentation, of course, environmental consciousness is very important, but the health consciousness is now, this year, above environmental consciousness, because we want to survive, we want to live. For example, in Istanbul, in my region, in my neighborhood, we had also a very strict rules regarding pandemic, and there was not enough environmental consciousness, including collection, separating, waste management, etc. Because we can't leave our apartments, and of course the industry personnel like municipality staff and other persons cannot leave their apartments as well. So everything has to be stopped for a couple of months. But I believe consumers are very smart in everywhere in the world. So, and there will be a balance between health consciousness and environmental consciousness, which is directly related to the sustainable world in the future. So there will be a balance, and we consider our environment, and we have to think all the sustainable development goals for every industry, but we have to consider our health now. And for example, let me explain a little bit by giving an example regarding gloves or face masks. They are very important, and my colleagues also showed some slides on them. We have to wear them. In Turkey, it is mandatory, but we have to also put them in a different recycling bin. But we have to learn this. This is very, very new issue for every consumer in the world. So, but there is no way back from sustainability as well. We have to protect our environment, but the health consciousness is much more important than environmental consciousness today. This is the fact.
Thank you, Aslihan. Henky, I know that you're very passionate about recycling, and I hear that every week from you. And I know that around the world, there are a number of countries where there has been waste collection restrictions. You can imagine what impact that has on the environment and just on health. But in particular, how has COVID-19 affected post-consumer material recoveries, and what has been the consequential impact?
Well, actually, that is not the whole situation in Indonesia, for example. I think the waste management, we are very poor here. You mentioned that before, the collection, the education, the habit of littering, and so on, and our station of waste is only in one place, only a landfill, a mix of waste, which is very, very difficult. But this situation today bring us to the as I said, rethinking all the situation and condition today. So at this moment, we are really thinking how important that we have to do the waste management. Waste consider is something nothing. It's a disposed material. But in the future, if we see the whole situation today, especially during the pandemic, I think it's a good time that everyone, all the stakeholders, started with the government up to the whole consumer, that we have to rethink about this matter, as I mentioned before, the circular economy. That is the most important today.
Thanks, Henky. Nerida, I want to bring you in now because looking at the design element and what we've seen in relation to e-commerce, this has had a major impact. How do you see that redesigning happening that will accommodate e-commerce related packaging and the transportation throughout the various countries and across the world?
Well, I think that e-commerce as a sustainable packaging design area actually does exceptionally well. It's extremely innovative. The companies around the world that are working in this space are already quite heavily involved in sustainability. I mean, if you're talking about carton board or corrugate, at the end of the day, it's a great product to be sustainable. And I think that there's so many innovations and advancements already happening in the space of eliminating polystyrene and unnecessary bubble wrap, etc., and anything that's inside the outer carton. So I think that they're already a step ahead here. I believe that e-commerce is already, I'm very confident, particularly what I've seen globally, that the majority of people that are working in this space are probably innovators and leaders in sustainable packaging design. And I use them as an example, as best practice, because there's some fabulous innovations already available.
Chakravarthi, you know that I always like to put you under pressure, and I'm going to put you under pressure in this question.
You can.
So one of my disappointments during this pandemic has been to hear of the inappropriate disposal of personal protection equipment. Do you have a solution for this around the world?
I'm really disheartened I'm really disheartened. When I go to the office or outside every day, if I see a face mask, be it N95 or a regular plastic face mask thrown on the sides, the first thing is the collection is a big problem. Who will really pick up a face mask, disposable face mask, because of the COVID-19 fears, even if it gives some money as a recycling. So the problem lies with all of us. Why in the first place we are throwing the used masks without any responsibility? That's first thing. The second thing is, I strongly recommend reusable, the washable 2-layer face mask for the general use for all the citizens, which I'm doing. I myself have around 3 face masks, 2-layered, locally made. It gives a boost to the local industry also. A lot of billions of face masks are being now. The India is self-sufficient, and we are also exporting to some other countries. So the cotton face masks are the best remedy. But at the same time, let's be more responsible, my dear friends, all of us. The disposal is the biggest challenge. I know that.
On the same topic, Aslihan, on the hygiene aspect that Chakravarthi has just touched on, I want to take it one step further and ask you, bearing in mind the design for hygiene, how does that fit into the future concerns about of consumers for safety?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I want to first add some words to Chakravarthi saying, if you allow me. Yes, there are 2 layers masks as well, but 3 layers masks are much more protective, because we are fighting an unknown enemy. So we don't know how it mutates, how it will grow. So, but this is a trial period for everyone in the world. Maybe in the future, we will see 3 layers mask reusable. We will see. I mean, this is something very, very new for everyone. And there will be a potential for a market growth regarding innovative face masks, for example. And we all see new products every day. Regarding hygiene, we all know, we all learn in the world that washing our hands properly is very, very important, for everyone, from the beginning to the elderly, because we are removing everything, all bacteria, germs, and maybe we are reducing the threat for viruses just by washing our hands. So we are learning, and this pandemic teaches us so many things. One is how we will be more hygienic than before. So this is one clue for all consumers. I think the hygiene is becoming more important in the future, not only for packaging products, but also for single-use items. Okay, they are single-use, but they have to pack also. So this is also a dilemma. You can't use a single-use plastics without packaging. So there will be more packaging, and our industry will be more dynamic, I think. So, and we all know that the packaging is a need for improving hygiene for any product. It can be medical product, it can be food product, or it can be a beverage. So one of our topics will be always hygiene and packaging relations in the future. Also, I mentioned in my presentation that the barrier packaging, we learn how important the barrier packaging we didn't listen the words that the virus is living on plastics that much day, or on glass this much day. So barrier packaging is also important.
Okay, I want to stop you there, and I'll tell you why. Because I want to bring in Henky, because he's the flexible guru, the flexible expert. And I want to ask him this question that you just highlighted, because we know from a technology perspective, there are many coatings and materials for sachets and pouches and whatever that are antimicrobial, Henky, they're antibacterial, they're aseptic. And recently, as recent as late last week, we had an incident in New Zealand where potentially they have found the virus, COVID-19 virus, on a package, on a plastic packaging that potentially had been in a frozen state. The final results are not out, but they are looking at the possibility. Is there something in packaging? Can we introduce something into packaging that can kill or prevent this virus from staying on the surface? Indeed, yes. Actually, you mentioned already regarding the functional coating, functional packaging in this case. We use many years already so-called the antimicrobial. And I've just reading in terms of the mass, of course, microorganism is a lot actually, from bacteria up to the virus, which is virus is the most difficult actually, although they are the life cycle is much shorter, but it's very difficult actually. And this case, if you have, there's several kind of antimicrobial, started with the many kind of like, let's say a nature material, or up to the so-called the metal. Metal is one of the I think is a good solution in the future, because you kill electron, ion and electron, and that in that particular, that will not harm in any case to the other part, no impact to our health itself. So this may be a good solution in the future. And I read that in the Switzerland, there's one company already started to do that, and this is under testing in the university in Berlin and in Aachen in Germany. So that might be a good solution, for example. So any development, any research that will, the technology, I believe, will give the solution in the future. Thank you. Nerida, the coronavirus pandemic has reshaped the industry megatrends in ways that will have major short and long-term implications for packaging design. What is your comment on that?
I think that most people were already on the path of designing sustainable packaging and ensuring that they were starting to go down the road of circular design. So I am positive that after the pandemic, people will go back to that focus and continue the momentum and the great work that was done before the pandemic. The only thing that I think will change, and for the better, is a change in consumer understanding of the true benefits of packaging. The last couple of years, we've been demonized as an industry, and plastics has been seen as the devil. And I think that the pandemic has actually shown consumers what we as an industry have been trying to tell them for a long time, that it's here to protect and preserve and contain. So for me, the positive out of this is consumer perception on packaging. I hope and I believe will be far more positive, and they will understand the true benefit of it. Great answer. Chakravarthi,
I know that you have your own business and you're very innovative. You have won no less than 5 World Star Awards, global. You're also one of the very few, if not the only Indian that has won an Ameristar. So I want to ask you, we talk about washing our hands. Sorry?
Only one in the pharmaceutical.
Okay. Now, I know that earlier on that Aslihan spoke about washing of hands and how important that is. How is this driving innovative packaging designs?
Well, starting from the basics, very basics. In fact, I personally know a few tens of hundreds of people in Asia, in India in particular, have benefited with the simple innovations by inventing the touch-free dispensing of the hand washes with a simple promotive stands where you also give some employment and it generates some business. And also I saw people making the isolation cabins made out of plastic packaging. These things are really adding some value to the people. But at the same time, the answer to your question, basically packaging is there in, its imprint is there in every walk of life. Somebody I just saw, they are very concerned that if the vaccine, for example, now that the phase 3 trials are already on with the Oxford and phase 1, phase 2 trials, there are more than 100 companies around the world are doing. So if the world has to be vaccinated, how about the packaging required? So nothing to worry, my dear friend Marcus. I personally spoke to people, top executives from companies like SGD, Gershema, or Scott. They told even if the world has to be vaccinated, they are prepared to supply the type 1 borosilicate glass vials, which are perfect suitability for the COVID-19 vaccine, because each of them have a few billions of capacity. So the packaging, imprint of packaging is everywhere, nothing to worry on that.
Thank you. All right, I've got the production director in my ear here and he's telling me the time is up. But I want to ask Aslihan a question and Henky a question. Only a 1-sentence answer, Aslihan, 1 sentence. Post-COVID-19, what packaging will change?
I can't answer it.
Right.
It has many it needs many sentences.
Better packaging.
Okay, well, that was 1 sentence, so I'll leave it.
Okay,
okay.
Portioned, more portioned packaging, packed foods. We need more portions, not huge ones.
That's 2 sentences. We'll take the portion pack. One question for you and 1 sentence only. This will be a year to remember. Your comment.
Indeed, that is the way supply chain is to become very much important today.
Well, I must say thank you to Nerida in Australia and Aslihan in Istanbul, Chakravarthi in India, and Henky in Jakarta. Thank you very much.
And I would like to just to say thank you very much, Pierre, for your wonderful moderation, and also to the guest panelists for their fantastic contributions. I agree with you, Pierre, there's been some great slides, and if any of our participants would like copies of those slides, we are happy to send them to anybody. So please just drop us a line at propak@informa.com, and we are happy to share slides with any participants. Equally, I know that some people have asked questions which may have not been answered, so we will circulate all the questions to the panelists and get those answers to you. So please don't feel that we've forgotten about you. Yes, thank you very much. It's obviously a highly informative session today. All that remains for me to say is that the next webinar in the ProPak series will look at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the role that packaging plays in food waste and food insecurity. This takes place on the 23rd of September and features another international panel of contributors. So please be sure to tune in and attend. And we look forward to seeing you then. So in the meantime, please stay safe and good afternoon, good evening, and goodbye.